Today we are working on Unit 5, Lesson 6 homework, and it's more practice with division. But we are looking at division where we have decimals in the dividend. And we can go ahead and review our vocabulary quickly. Remember, the number that you are dividing it by is called the divisor. The number that is being broken into equal parts is called the dividend. And the number that is your answer is called the quotient. And that's just a quick vocabulary review. What we're talking about today is when the dividend here has a decimal in it. We'll go ahead and work with number 1. When we have a dividend that has a decimal in it, we think of this little chant. The first thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. So practice that. The first thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. Your decimal is not going to change when you have a whole number as a divisor and a decimal in your dividend. So your decimal will not move. First thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. So practice that each time. All right, let's go ahead and then we can complete our division problem just like we've been practicing. And now that the decimal is on the line, we can go ahead and ignore it from here. 9 cannot go into 6 because it is larger, so that's 0. 9 can go into 65 7 times because 9 times 7 is equal to 63. I'm going to go ahead and put my 63 in and then subtract. 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. 6 minus 6 is equal to 0. I can do my check and make sure that my remainder, which is 2 here, is less than my divisor of 9, and it is. So we're good to go. We can then bring down our 7. Now, I know that 9 can go into 27 3 times because 9 times 3 is equal to 27. And 27 minus 27 is 0, so we are finished there. So your answer for number 1 is 73 hundredths or 0.73. All right, we're going to look at number 2, and we're going to remember our chant. The first thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. You'll be sick of hearing me say that by the end of today. The first thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. Now I can ignore my decimal as if it's not even there because I've put it up on my line. 5 cannot go into 3 because it is larger. 5 can go into 36 because 5 times 7 is equal to 35. And now I can write my 35 and then subtract. 6 minus 5 is equal to 1. 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. I can see that my remainder of 1 is less than my divisor of 5, so I'm good to go. I can go ahead and bring down my next number, which is my 4. 5 can go into 14 2 times without going over, and 5 times 2 is equal to 10. And I can go ahead then and subtract. 4 minus 0 is equal to 4, and 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. And I can see that my remainder of 4 is less than my divisor of 5, so I'm good to go again. Let's bring down my next number, and that's a 1. Now, I know that 5 can go into 41 because 5 times 8 is equal to 40. And I can go ahead and subtract. 1 minus 0 is 1, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So I have a 1 here. Now I need to continue on. So I'm going to add a 0 up top here, and then I'm going to bring it down until I can get myself to have no remainders. And I'm going to bring down that 0, and I know that 5 can go into 10 2 times, because 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 minus 10 is 0. And now I have no remainder left over, so I'm finished with this problem. So my answer for number 2 is 7 and 282 thousandths, or 7.282. We'll go ahead and work with number 3 together. Again, the first thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. So bring that decimal up. Now I can begin my division. I know that 4 can go into 9, and 4 can go into 9 2 times because 4 times 2 is equal to 8. And now I can subtract. 9 minus 8 is equal to 1. I can see that my remainder of 1 is less than my divisor of 4, so I'm good to go. And I can bring down my next number, which is a 5. I know that 4 can go into 15 3 times. 4 times 3 is equal to 12. And I can complete my subtraction. 5 minus 2 is equal to 3. 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. And 3 again is less than my divisor of 4, so I can go ahead and bring down my next number, which is 8. And I know that 4 can go into 38. 4 times 9 is equal to 36, and I can go ahead and complete my subtraction. 8 minus 6 is equal to 2, and 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. And again, my remainder here of 2 is less than my divisor of 4. So I can go ahead then and bring down my next number. My next number is a 4 to bring down. And I know that 4 can go into 24 because 4 times 6 is equal to 24. And I can go ahead and subtract. 24 minus 24 is 0. And I am finished there. So my answer for number 3 is 2 396 thousandths, or 2.396. All right, we're going to move to number 4. And again, the first thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. There's my decimal, and now I can ignore the decimal. 6 cannot go into 2 because it is larger. 6 can go into 20. 6 times 3 is equal to 18. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract. 0 becomes a 10, 2 becomes a 1. 10 minus 8 is equal to 2, and 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. I can do my quick check and make sure that my remainder of 2 is less than my divisor of 6, and it is, so we're good to go there. Now we can bring down our next number, and in this is a 7. And we're left with 27. And I know that 6 can go into 27. 6 times 4 is equal to 24, and I can go ahead then and subtract. 7 minus 4 is equal to 3, and 2 minus 2 is equal to 0. Do your quick check again and make sure remainder of 3 is less than your divisor of 6. We're good to go. We can bring down our next number, and that's a 9. And I know that 6 can go into 39 because 6 times 6 is equal to 36. And I can go ahead and subtract. 9 minus 6 is equal to 3, and 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. Now I don't have anything left. I have a remainder of 3 here, and when we're working with decimals, we then just go back up to the top and add in another 0. You can extend your bar if you need to. I add in a 0, and then I bring it down. And now my number is a 30. So 6 can go into 30 because 6 times 5 is equal to 30, and 30 minus 30 is 0. And now I don't have a remainder, so I can stop there. So my answer for number 4 is 34 65 hundredths, or 34.65. Okay, we're going to work through number 5 together. We'll do one more here. This one reads 153.87, or 153 87 hundredths divided by 23. First thing I do every time, put my decimal on the line. All right, 23, we know 23 cannot go into 1 because it's larger. 23 cannot go into 15 because it's also larger. 23 can go into 153. Now, when we look at this, we can say that if we want to look in terms of money, 150 is pretty close to, or 153 is pretty close to 150, and 23 is pretty close to 25. So if we think in terms of money, how many quarters would be in $1.50? That would be 6. So we're going to go ahead and multiply 23 times 6 and see if we get close. 6 times 3 is equal to 18. Put down your 8, carry your 1. 6 times 2 is equal to 12, plus 1 is equal to 13. So we can go ahead and try with 6 and 138. We can then complete our subtraction here. Now, 3 becomes a 13, 5 becomes a 4. 13 minus 8 is equal to 5, and 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. We can do our check now and make sure, and we can see that 15, our remainder, is less than 23, which is our divisor, so we're good to go, and we can go ahead and bring down our next number. And our next number is 8. Now we're looking at how many times can 23 go into 158? Well, we know that 23 can go into 138 6 times. So if it were to go in 7 times, okay, it would be too big because there's only 20 between 138 158, and our divisor is 23. So it's going to be 6 again. So we can go ahead and put down a 6 and then subtract 138 again. And let's go ahead, and 8 minus 8 is 0, 5 minus 3 is 2, and 1 minus 1 is 0. You can do your check, and you can see that 20, which is your remainder, is less than 23, that divisor, so you are good to go to your next number. Bring down your 7. Now it's 207. How many times can 23 go into 207? And you're going to think about this again in terms of money. If you had quarters, because 23 is pretty close to 25 for estimation, and you have 207, which is pretty close to 200. So we can think about how many quarters are in $2. And you can say 8. So let's see what that is. We can do 23 and multiply that by 8 and see if we're close to 207. 8 times 3 is equal to 24. Put down your 4, carry your 2. 8 times 2 is equal to 16, plus 2 is equal to 18. Let's go ahead and try that and subtract. Okay, we'll put up our 8, and we'll write down our 184 and subtract. 7 minus 4 is equal to 3. Your 0 becomes a 10, your 2 becomes a 1. 10 minus 8 is equal to 2, and 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Well, you've got to do your check here, and look, you have 23 as your remainder. Now, is 23 less than your divisor of 23? It's not. It means that it's exactly one more. So this number here in the hundredths place should be times 9, because 23 times 9 is equal to 207. So you can go ahead then and just bring down your 207, and 207 minus 207 is equal to 0. So your answer for number 5 is going to be 6 69/100, or 6.69. Always make sure you're checking your remainder up against your divisor. Let's go down to your story problems. We'll complete one together. Number 10. Teresa bought 16 roses for $20.64. How much did she pay for each rose? Well, if all of the roses together cost her $20.64, we know that we're going to have to complete a division problem to figure out how much each rose cost. She purchased 16 roses, and those 16 roses cost her $20.64. First thing I do every time is put my decimal on the line. All right, I know that 16 can go into, or cannot go into 2, so it's a 0. 16 can go into 20 one time without going over. 16 times 1 is 16. Your 0 becomes a 10, and your 2 becomes a 1. 10 minus 6 is equal to 4, and 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Do your quick check. Your remainder is 4. Your divisor is 16. As long as your remainder is less than your divisor, you're good to go. Let's go ahead and bring down our next number, and our next number is 6. And 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 3 is 48, which would be too big, so we're going to go ahead, and it's going to be 2. And again, 16 times 2 is equal to 32. Go ahead and subtract. 6 minus 2 is equal to 4, and 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. Check your divisor and your remainder. 14 is less than 16, so again, you're good to move on to the next one. Let's bring down our 4. So 16 into 144. And I am going to count by 20s. If I went by 20s and it's actually less than, maybe I shoot to go by 15s. I think it's going to be 16 times 9 is going to give me pretty close to 144. And 9 times 6 is equal to 54. Put down your 4, carry your 5. 9 times 1 is equal to 9, plus 5 is equal to 14. And yes, it's 9. It's exactly 9. So 144, and I can subtract 144 minus 144 is 0. So it's telling me that each rose cost $1.29. So we got to make sure we use our dollar sign, and it's $1.29. You can go ahead and complete 6 through 9 on your own and 11 through 13 on your own. When you've finished, please take a picture of your work, attach it to the assignment, upload, and turn it in on Teams.